As French troops arrived in Romania today to join NATO forces, the alliance rejected Ukraine's demand for no-fly zones.
And of course, the only way to implement a no-fly zone is to send NATO planes, fighter planes, into Ukrainian airspace and then impose that no-fly zone by shooting down Russian planes. And our assessment is that we understand the desperation, but we also believe that if we did that, we'll end up with something that could end in a full-fledged war in Europe, involving many more countries and causing much more human suffering.
Speaking after a meeting of NATO foreign ministers, the Secretary-General also had this stark warning.
The days to come are likely to be worse, with more death, more suffering and more destruction.
In Brussels, EU foreign ministers are meeting to discuss the crisis, considering more sanctions and renewing calls for a ceasefire.
And I think it's really about sending a very clear message to the world that we in the European Union and other partners are really disgusted and outraged by what we continue to see day after day in Ukraine and Russia's actions, which clearly are a breach of international law. I don't think there's any credible argument now that war crimes aren't being committed on a daily basis.
The US Secretary of State hit out at what he described as President Putin's war of choice.
A war that is having horrific consequences for real people, for mothers, for fathers, for children. We see the images on TV, and it has to stop.
As the fighting continues on the ground, Ukraine plans a third round of talks with Russia this weekend. Paul Quinn, Virgin Media News.